On behalf of Cherokee Public Schools, I would like to welcome you to our Veterans Day Assembly. It is an honor for me to be able to welcome so many veterans to our school and give them our gratitude for their time serving our country. We have a theme at school this year that is superheroes. When I was growing up, my heroes were athletes and wrestlers, but as I have matured, grown up, or old, my uncles that served in Vietnam and these veterans who live here in our community are my superheroes.
Today we have joined together to honor America's veterans and celebrate their contributions to our way of life. Few have given more to our nation than the men and women who have served in our armed forces. Thank you for joining us today as we honor our veterans. Please rise, remove cover, and join me as our Cherokee Band plays the national anthem under the direction of Mr. Armstrong. Stands today a symbol of hope, flying in the name of peace and the brotherhood of man. It is a tribute of the accomplishments of yesterday and the dreams and hopes of tomorrow, the future of mankind. Our flag represents the people of the United States, you and me. Let us stand by the stars and stripes now and forever, as a symbol to which has led brave men to victory and glory. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you for joining us today as we honor our veterans through both informational and artistic presentations. Some of you may wonder how Veterans Day began. This video explains some of the historical development of our national holiday, Veterans Day.
soldiers from wars both old and new march down city streets. Flags hang from homes, businesses, even car antennas. Ceremonies remember those who dutifully served their nation. It's Veterans Day, or Remembrance Day, as it's known in much of the world, a time to honor members of the armed forces. And it all began in a railroad car with a document to end the war, to end all wars. World War I, also known as the Great War, shocked the global community with its unprecedented toll in human life. Untold millions were killed. Germany was running low on manpower and supplies, so they agreed to sign an armistice, or truce, in the French commander Ferdinand Foch's private railcar. On the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, all was quiet on the Western Front. The fighting had ended. Exactly 1 year later, President Woodrow Wilson decreed that Americans should observe a moment of silence at 11 a.m. to remember the armistice and to embrace the peace. Other Allied nations commemorated the peaceful anniversary as well. In England and Canada, citizens wore paper poppies. Poppies had become a symbol of the armistice. The poem Flanders Field described a one-time battlefield. In Flanders Field, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row. In America, the nation's first unknown soldier was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery on Armistice Day, 1921. He was a casualty of the Great War. Since that first memorial, other unknown soldiers from America's wars have been interred in the tomb. And it's become tradition for the president or one of his representatives to lay a wreath on the monument every November 11th. A resolution was passed in 1926 inviting all Americans to remember Armistice Day and the soldiers who fought so hard for peace. The idea caught on. By 1938, the day was marked with so many ceremonies and parades, Congress made it a legal holiday, giving people the day off work. After World War II and the Korean War, Americans wanted to open up the holiday to include not just World War I veterans, but all who served in combat. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower, a World War II vet himself, legally changed the U.S. Armistice Day to Veterans Day, honoring those who served in all American wars. For a brief time, starting in 1971, Congress moved the holiday to the fourth Monday in October, giving Americans a three-day weekend. But most people rejected the idea. The traditional date of November 11th, the anniversary of the Great War's ceasefire, was too historically important to forget. President Ford reversed the law in 1975, returning Veterans Day back to its rightful date. Over the decades, the holiday has changed with the times. Originally, it was a call for world peace. Then in the U.S., it became a day to remember war veterans. Today, Veterans Day is set aside to honor not just those who served in war, but also those who have served their nation in peace.
From the beginning of Veterans Day to today, American veterans have been honored on this special holiday. Now please join us in another tribute as the first and second grades sing on Veterans Day under the direction of Mrs. Heather McNeil.
Sacrifice to serve our nation.
worry about it because we've got it. But it could be lost in a hurry.
It's free because of the conflicts we've been through in previous years, and people fighting for this country has kept it free. I think we live in the greatest country in the world. I'm proud that I was part of its defense.
I was very proud of what I did for Lord, and I wish I could have done more. I did what I was supposed to do, and the best I could.
We had a job to do, and we did it. And my job was to get into the fight.
Our whole goal was to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I'm not a hero. I consider that if what I did was part of my job, part of my life, part of the country's survival.
I know a lot of servicemen do this when I go to things like they have where they play the Star Spangled Banner or taps. I just break down. I just can't handle it. That's the supreme sacrifice for those who gave their life.
I personally have them in my mind every day, above and beyond Memorial Day, Veterans Day. The way to memorialize our brothers and sisters that gave their life for this country is to keep ourselves informed of what they did and why. War is hell, and it has to happen because things have to be rectified.
The liberties that we enjoy today are not guaranteed by any stretch of the imagination, and we'll keep fighting for our country.
We honor and respect all of our comrades in arms that have defended and protected our American ideals since the American Revolution, right up to the present time.
The greatest performers of all time are people in the military. So in my mind, every veteran is a hero.
USS Enterprise.
Veterans have sacrificed so many things to defend our nation and everything this nation stands for. In gratitude, we honor our veterans for paying the price of freedom for all Americans.
America truly is the home of the brave and the land of the free because of you. Please welcome our kindergarten class performing Oh I Love America under the direction of Miss Heather McNeil.
Oh,
Veterans Day by Cheryl Dyson. On Veterans Day, we honor all who answered to a service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died, and all of them deserve our pride. We're proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking of red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought through many days and nights. And though we may not know each name, we thank all on Veterans Day. As we honor and celebrate the contributions of all of our nation's veterans, we take special pride in those veterans who live right here in our communities and surrounding areas.
At this time, we would like to recognize all veterans who are present. We kindly request that you stand, if possible, as we announce their names and while we read their brief history of their service. Gerald Poe, Army, rank PFC 3, service 2 years. Gary Bassett, branch of service, Navy, rank E5, years of service 1967 to 1970 in Vietnam. Mark McDonald, branch of service, Army, rank Specialist E4, years of service 8.
Mark Skinner, served in the Army as a sergeant, 25 years of service with meritorious service. William D. Gandel, served in the Army. His rank was SP 4E4, served from February 1967 to February 1970. His honors include National Defense, Vietnam service, and Vietnam Cross of Valor. John Patton, served in the Air Force. He was a sergeant. His years of service were 65 to 1970.
Donald Wessels, he was in the Army Security Agency, rank E5, years of service 4. Wesley Creasy, he was in the Army, rank SFC E7 and 20 years. Lloyd Stout, he was in the Marines. He was a deckhand and 3 years. Keith Smith, he was in the U.S. Marine Corps, a sergeant. His years of service were 4, and his honors from his service were Combat Action Ribbon, Presidential Citation, and Vietnam and Tour Service Ribbon. Brian Mitchell, he was the Army National Guard. He was a captain. His years of service were 2003 to 2011. Jose Salinas, he was the Army National Guard. His rank was a staff sergeant, and his years of service were 20 years. Tammy Guffey, her branch of service was the Navy. She was ranked E3 and served 5 years from 1996 to 2002. Paul Jackson, his branch of service was the Army. His rank was E5 and served from 1966 to 1969.
Tim Kaufman served in the U.S. Army with the rank of LTC for 25 years. His honors included 3 times Bronze Stars, Jump Master, Combat Infantry Bands, and Badge Ranger Tap. Ron G. Hawkins served in the Navy, rank retired commander for 22 years. His honors included 7 air medals over Vietnam. in the U.S. Marine Corps, Oklahoma National Guard, rank of E5 SGT, for 17 years. Phil Cozy served in the USAF with the rank of TSQT for 10 years. And Roy Everingham served in the Air Force with the rank of Sergeant for 4 years plus 2 years of reserve.
Earl Smith. Army, rank of SFE 7, 20 years of service. His honors include the Meritorious Service Award, Expert Rifle Award, 2 ARCOM. David Cullen. United States Air Force, Sergeant. Served from 1951 to 1954. Honors include Major. Jim Warner. Army, Lieutenant Colonel, 29 years of service. TJ Allison. Oklahoma National Guard, Specialist, 6 years of service. If there are any veterans who were unannounced at this time, will you please stand?
Former President George H.W. Bush once said, "Memory is the first measure of gratitude. Those who are truly grateful do not forget the service that has been rendered for their sake." Thank you, veterans, for your service for our country. We appreciate your gift of freedom.
At this time, would all students, faculty members, and guests who have had a family member serve in the military please stand? We would like to thank your family for their military service as well.
Stood my watch into the night, even though it was cold, even though it was hot. In countries I could hardly spell, I trained every day to be ready to serve, on land, on sea, and in the air. I placed my trust in the person next to me, for he is I, and I am him. God, service, country is one of the reasons I serve, mostly for the person also serving his country. For that person, I trust my life. I did not serve for monetary gain or for glory. I serve so that our country can remain free. For I am an American veteran. I answered my country call to the chime of "Give me liberty" or "Give me death." I battled my brother on American soil in a great civil war. For I am an American veteran. Shouting "Remember the Maine" as I charged up San Juan Hill, singing over there," as I left for the trenches of Europe. I fought in the sweltering heat of the Pacific and the beaches of Normandy, for I am an American veteran. I fought with courage in the Oriental land of Korea. Vietnam, I fought for my brother, for I knew not why I was there. Gulf War and Afghanistan, I was called a hero, for I am an American veteran. There were other conflicts, War of 1812, Mexican War, Grenada, so many it's hard to remember. For every time my country called, I served with pride, for I am an American veteran. I do not want to be called a hero, for real heroes are those who gave their life. When you see me, just say thanks, for I am an American veteran.
today because of all of you, our American veterans. Please welcome our 3rd and 4th grade classes to the stage to sing a touching song of tribute, Because of You.
Placed the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And as I stepped back and stood during the moment of silence that followed, I said a small prayer. And it occurred to me that each of my predecessors has had a similar moment, and I wondered if our prayers weren't very much the same, if not identical. We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And I wonder, in fact, if all America's prayers aren't the same as those I mentioned a moment ago. For all we can ever do for our heroes is remember them and remember what they did. And memories are transmitted through words. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise. We see them as something like the founding fathers, gray and gray hair. But most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up 2 lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. There's always someone who is remembering for us. No matter what time of year it is or what time of day, there are always people who come to this cemetery, leave a flag or a flower or a little rock on a headstone. And they stop, bow their heads, and communicate what they wish to communicate. I think sometimes of General Matthew Ridgway, who the night before D-Day tossed sleepless on his cot and talked to the Lord and listened for the promise that God made to Joshua. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. We are surrounded today by the debt of our wars. We owe them a debt we can never repay. All we can do is remember them and what they did, and why they had to be brave for us. All we can do is try to see that other young men never have to join them. Today, as never before, we must pledge to remember the things that will continue the peace. Today, as never before, we must pray for God's help in broadening and deepening the peace we enjoy. Let us pray for freedom and justice and a more stable world. And let us make a compact today with the dead. A promise in the words for which General Ridgway listened: I will not fail thee nor forsake thee.
Many of whom to be buried with military honors. Every veteran who left the service with anything but a dishonorable discharge is eligible for the distinguished ceremony at their death.
The traditions of military burial have been maintained for centuries, and each aspect of the ritual is steeped in meaning and symbolism. For those who celebrate their life with the inclusion of a military burial, they are acknowledging the important role that the armed forces played in their life.
Today we'll be honored to witness 3 of the military rituals: the draping of the flag, folding and presentation of the flag, and the playing of the taps.
Two of our local veterans, Mr. Brian Mitchell and Mr. Jerry Poe, will be performing the flag folding ritual while accompanied by the Cherokee Band under the direction of Mr. John Armbrook playing taps. Please welcome them to the stage.